7 mistakes men make when a woman pulls away, plus better alternatives for responding.
Have you ever felt that the girl you were dating was slipping away from you? And was it already too late by the time you realized it?
Women are often pretty whimsical in the early stages of dating. Whether you've gone on a single date or have been dating for a while,
there's a good chance you still don't have a clear-cut indication of whether or not she likes you. So how do you respond when it feels like she's pulling away from you?
Let's face it, when you first date her, everything tends to go really well. Often, you get a sense that you interest her, there is good chemistry, and you are both enjoying your time together. You are in touch and see each other pretty consistently. But then, something changes. Perhaps she starts to take a little longer to respond, postpones or cancels your dates altogether, or starts to even slip in a negative remark or two. You will often wonder, what happened? Is it because of something that was said or transpired in one of your most recent dates? You will naturally wonder, why is she no longer into me? And how can I restore things to the way they were before? The truth is that women pull away because of how you make them feel more often than the actual chain of events that transpired. How you respond in the early stages of her becoming more distant will pretty much determine whether or not you still have a chance to get things back on track with her. In this video, we will discuss the 7 mistakes men make when a woman pulls away and how to avoid falling into common pitfalls. By watching this video until the very end, you will learn much more effective ways to respond to her when she pulls away. Number 1, try harder and chase. Men are often convinced that women pull away because of something they explicitly did, said, or didn't express. The truth is that a woman typically gets turned off at a subconscious level because of the way you make her feel. She could, for example, feel like she has you figured out,
or that you are not interesting or challenging enough. A woman often takes a step back to test whether or not you will rise to the occasion. This means she is stress testing you to gauge whether you can stay confident and strong even when facing some adversity. It signals to her that you have the mental toughness to have her back and can be counted on.
When a girl initially pulls away, it is often a guy's natural instinct to either try harder or even outright chase her. The minute you chase a woman or show her that you want it too much, it will often push her away even further and lead to a pretty painful rejection. So how do you resist the urge to try harder and chase her? Be honest and upfront about your experience. Tell her, hey, I really enjoyed getting to know you, but I would like to keep going. It feels to me like you are pulling away a little and are emotionally less available. Just be honest with me and let me know what is going on. Even if you don't get the answer or reaction you were hoping for, give her the space she needs. Occasionally check in on her and see how she is doing. Find ways to still keep the communication going and stay in her life. Also, try to go deeper to see if there's anything on her mind or any issues that she's dealing with. Be the anchor she can count on to guide her. Stay consistent and maintain your devotion despite the new dynamic between the two of you. But still, give your girl the space she needs. Number 2, confess or blurt out your feelings.
Men often think, if she only knew how much I liked her, she would stay for sure and like me back the same way.
It's easy to fall into the trap of beating yourself up for things you either did or didn't do, say, or express. Some uncertainty is considered attractive in a woman's eyes. It makes her wonder whether you are truly into her and makes you a more exciting puzzle to solve. A woman often hits the brakes when you give her too clear-cut an indication that you are into her. So, confessing your feelings to her when she pulls away will almost always fall on deaf ears. When you impose your feelings on her before she is ready, she is bound to feel a little overwhelmed and not know how to cope with it. So how do you avoid blurting out your feelings? Remember that women want what they either cannot have or have to figure out. So being an open book and revealing everything you feel will make you feel more boring, predictable, and less appealing. Take one step back to take 2 forward. Lower your frequency and intensity of contact. Don't let your woman sense that her pulling away is bothering you in any way. Even if you sense that her reactions or lack of care is triggering, you do everything you can to withhold your emotional impulses.
She might tell you hurtful things, such as, "It is not going to work," or "We are clearly not meant to be together." Do your best not to take it to heart or let it impact your self-esteem in any way. Continue to take care of yourself, be around people who care about you, and pursue things you love. Self-care will make you less dependable on her for emotional support of any kind. If you do feel yourself getting triggered, find ways to walk it off or talk it off with a friend. Even seek professional counsel if need be. Walking it off allows cooler heads to prevail and protects you from saying the wrong thing in the heat of the moment. If you can stay dispassionate, it allows you to tune into your woman and see what is bothering her. A more gradual and consistent approach will reignite the passion between the two of you. Number 3, reciprocating by pulling away yourself. Eye for an eye. You see she is withdrawing from you, so you punish her by withdrawing yourself. Your ego compels you to think, "How dare she?" and "I'll show her." This is often an inauthentic and even immature response. You are being reactive rather than proactive, and it is likely to come across as weak and immature in your girl's eyes. Remember that she unconsciously wants to see how you will respond and gauge how you will handle difficult moments. Whether you have seen this dynamic play out at home, in a previous relationship, or even during your childhood, if you have conditioned yourself to accept this type of relationship dynamic, it might be a sign you should talk to a therapist or family counselor. So how do you resist the urge to punish her for her behavior? Unless you are really not interested in her anymore, then don't pull away and do this instead. Believe her actions, not her words. If she says she still loves and cares for you, but doesn't act accordingly, then make a measured response according to that. If she says everything is fine but never initiates communication, then decide how to respond proactively rather than reactively. It will allow you to make a more conscious decision on how to respond. And if you do decide to pull back, it will be a more measured, proactive response. Number 4, apologizing, explaining, or outright begging. Your natural instinct is to want to come up with answers for why you are no longer as close to her. You ask yourself, why did she pull away? Was it because I went out with my friends instead of her last Friday? Or was it due to our last argument? When you sense her pulling away, you will feel compelled to do anything to get her back and restore things to the way they were. This may lead you to apologize for certain behaviors and actions, even though you are actually being authentically you. Or try to over-rationalize why you did what you did, instead of just holding your ground and telling her it's because you didn't feel like it. In a desperate attempt to win her back, you might even feel tempted to outright beg her to be with you. So how do you avoid slipping into destructive behaviors? Hold your own value. A high-value man knows what he stands for and what he will tolerate. Never let yourself compromise your integrity. When you apologize or explain yourself, especially for things that weren't really wrong, you come across as so weak and like a pushover. Thus, you must never apologize or explain yourself unless you do so from a position of power. It's important to stay kind to yourself. Avoid blaming yourself or any negative self-talk. Understand that women often pull away just to test you. So by upholding your value and staying true to what you want and expect, she is more likely to eventually realize that she's the one missing out. Number 5, getting angry, aggressive, and defaulting to ultimatums. We all have a series of wounds and triggers that we can either ignore or rise above. Some linger around from previous relationships, while others come from our childhood. Perhaps her pulling away triggered some of your deepest fears or reminded you of someone else who did the same thing to you. Nevertheless, even if you feel hurt or wronged, don't let yourself lose your temper. Perhaps she pulled away after you allowed yourself to become vulnerable, or you spent some quality time together, and rather than bring you closer, it drew you apart. Lashing out at her and displaying overt aggressiveness will only push her further away from you. So how do you avoid getting angry and aggressive? Become mindful of what triggers you. Decide to step away when something your woman says or does stirs you up. Maybe go for a walk or let your frustration out through physical exercise. Even if you want her to know just how upset you are with her not acting appropriately, find a way to work through it and let cooler heads prevail. Ask yourself, why is she really pulling away?
Perhaps it's because you have already let your temper or emotions get the best of you in the past. Avoid putting undue pressure on her or giving her ultimatums of any kind. To get her to want to be closer to you requires a more nuanced approach. Most importantly, avoid making character remarks of any kind or putting her down. 6. Don't fall for mind games. Sometimes a woman pulls away because she actually wants to create a reaction in you or test the waters to see what will make you respond emotionally.
It is sometimes a somewhat manipulative move to make you feel more compelled to either take the relationship to the next level, give her more attention, or treat her differently. A confident, high-value guy will take his time to assess why a girl has truly pulled back. So how do you avoid falling for manipulative maneuvers? If you realize that she is, in fact, playing mind games with you, don't let her trap you in it.
Do this instead. Gauge how consistent her behavior is. A woman who is genuinely pulling away won't play hot and cold games with you.
If a girl pulls away but then showcases affection another time, it might indicate that she's trying to get something out of the situation.
In scenarios like these, it pays for you to be the one to pull away or unemotionally let her know what you stand for and that such behavior is not something you'll tolerate. When you realize she pulls away to manipulate you, it can be a blessing in disguise because it could indicate that the two of you are incompatible and that she's not the right girl for you. 7. Spoiling her more to win her back.
Whether you send flowers, invite her to expensive dinners, or buy her lavish gifts to woo her, when these gestures come with a hidden agenda, they are less authentic, and your woman will sense it and thus appreciate it less. Spoiling her as she is pulling back has 3 negative consequences. It rewards her for taking a step back. It shows her you are desperate and makes you seem low value. It puts undue pressure on her at a time when she is figuring things out.
When she is not ready to receive the gifts, they lose their effectiveness. From her perspective, she is already under enough pressure to think things through and decide whether or not she wants to continue. So, imposing your gifts on her just adds another element she did not expect and is not ready to receive. So, what can you do instead to win her back? Finding ways to be there for her emotionally is much more important than material gifts. If you want to spoil her, it has to be in response to a cue she has clearly given you.
Maybe she mentions she has some pressure at work and has barely gotten a chance to be out. You take that as a cue, and you suggest taking her for a nice activity outdoors. When you stay true to yourself, hold your value, and avoid slipping into unconstructive behaviors, you are more likely to preserve your self-esteem.
It will make it easier for you to trust your own gut and create a more measured response. It will also enable you to rise to the occasion and make the adjustments necessary to stay in your woman's life and work on gradually restoring things to the way they were. Or it might shed light on the fact that the two of you are simply incompatible and that moving on is probably the best option. Remember that women want what they cannot have or what they have to figure out. So the moment a woman senses that she has you in her little pocket, it's truly over and you won't find a way to get her back. Therefore, it would help if you were patient enough to make a measured response and trust the natural unfolding of events. When a woman feels like you uphold your value and would rather lose her than compromise your integrity, it will make you so much more desirable.
We hope you've enjoyed this video and get a sense of how much work we put into it. Please be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to stay in the loop. Our goal is to empower you to act, date, and be a confident, high-value guy.
Which one of these mistakes resonates with you the most? Would you please share stories of mistakes you made when a woman you dated pulled away from you? Let us know what you learned from it and how it made you a better man.